capacity building and training of women, for example, young women in different supply chains. And 3, democratization of knowledge, data, and information to include women. I'll give an example of an intervention to introduce pond polyculture in Luwingi, in northern province in Zambia, where some of these approaches were used. Women were trained to construct homestead ponds and produce and harvest several species of fish. They were also trained to process and sell their harvest, thereby increasing income, and were also trained in taking charge of household expenditure management. This included empowering women to use part of their income to purchase diverse, nutritious, and safe foods, directed especially to their children and themselves. At the community level, several women organized themselves into a cooperative, creating a system to support each other, build capacity, and also scale the pond polyculture technology to other women in neighboring villages. The cooperative also organized the collective purchase and dissemination of broodstock and seedlings so that there was benefit for all. Let me close by calling for better representation of women across different levels in decision-making platforms, in co-creating and also in evaluating innovations, and truly owning the solutions for holistic food systems transformation within their communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shankuntala. Again, very, very insightful. We're talking about food systems that would be and nutritional interventions that are context-specific and culture-appropriate. I think those are keywords that are critical to how we design nutritional programs, and of course your call for better representation of women across the nutritional supply chain, nutritional value chain, nutritional decision making, and so on. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to very quickly move on to Mrs. Hiwot. She's a nutrition coordinator, lead executive officer for the Ministry of Ethiopia. And the question is, what initiatives are you leading in your country in support of women's role in transforming food systems for stronger nutritional benefits? Ms. Hiwot.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning all. It's a great pleasure to be here in this forum and sharing my country's experience on how we are engaged in the food system transformation and how we are using the opportunity to best benefit nutrition, especially in support of this food system especially for women. So ensuring food and nutrition security is along the life cycle is a key pillar in our food and nutrition policy and the food system transformation roadmap. However, due to this, the global food price inflation, the climate change such as drought and conflict are affecting the food and nutrition security situation for our citizens and the entire food system. So to mitigate the impact of these challenges, the government of Ethiopia is implementing various strategies such as the food and nutrition policy and its operationalization strategy, which will serve for the coming 10 years, and the food system transformation roadmap and other various sector-specific strategies are to mention some examples. And the other one is the Sekota Declaration. This is the first of its kind government commitment to end stunting among under 2 age children in 2030, and it has 15 years roadmap and 3 distinct phases. The first phase is innovation phase. We demonstrated about 3% of annual average reduction of stunting and averted over 110,000 stunting cases. And the second one is the expansion phase, and we are implementing in 214 districts across the country. Through series of dialogues and consultative meetings, the government and all development partners identifying the major or key challenges for around food system and nutrition transformation, and came up with 22 game-changing solutions and 6 clusters. The clusters are mainly developed under the leadership of Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Agriculture, which majorly contribute to improve food production, not only production, access and utilization, and the other one is to protect risk of and households, families, resilience to shocks, more specifically on the first 1,000 days, which is majorly focused on women and adolescent girls. So to maximizing the benefits of this food system transformation and other initiatives, and to sustain the momentum of that the leadership has at this point, we do certain steps. Just want to mention one is we managed to reorganizing the existing governance structure, which is the Food System and the Nutrition Interministerial Steering Committee, to chair both food system and the nutrition as a single platform. The other one is a regulation. We draft regulation to chair this food and nutrition transformation by the Deputy PM. This is under review for the Council of Ministers for endorsement. The other one is the national flagship initiative like the Green Legacy. So significant number of plantations are underway. So significant proportion were fruit trees that will contribute for healthy diet. The other one is the banquet of baskets, which is mainly focused production, utilization, and access of foods. So there are many initiatives to mention for specifically for women. One is providing women with access to land, credit, and appropriate capacity building that help women to increase their agricultural productivity and income, which can improve the household food security and nutrition. The other one is promoting women participation in decision making, so that women can be benefit both out of the change. The other one is increasing access to nutritious food, and the other is access to clean water and sanitation. The other I want to emphasize is enhancing women's leadership and advocacy skills. And the other one is designing a resilience program and working on a smallholder household resilient to shock, and in turn it has to be complemented with strengthening social protection schemes such as the productive safety net and so on. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you for reminding us about the Ethiopia's food systems roadmap that seems to have very robust measures around improvement of nutritional outcomes. Thank you very much. So please, let's give a round of applause to our panelists. And at this moment, I would like to request Her Excellency to come on stage for a photo with the panelists and the Honorable...
Ladies and gentlemen, Food security exists when all people, at all times, have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs as well as their preference. Unfortunately, according to United Nations, over 800 million people are living in extreme poverty, 70% of them in rural communities and depending on agriculture. This morning's session has already begun to show us some of these challenges of the people who provide food. The 500 million people feeding the 2 billion people in our continent are the most impacted by poverty. The impact of climate change has also further aggravated these challenges for them. We've seen various challenges from loss of rural livelihood, loss of marine and coastal ecosystems and livelihood, and loss of territorial and inland water systems and livelihoods as well. So in the context of all of these challenges, I would like our panelists, one after the other, to reflect on the impact of all of these challenges on the food systems development in Africa and the areas where you identify potential opportunities to address this challenge based on the places where you work from. So I'd like to kick this off with Professor Ruth Onyango. Please go ahead.
I can't hear you very well. I don't know if it's my ears or the audio. But first of all, let me just thank the organizers, especially Agrf and Dr. Kalibata, for bringing us this far. It's not easy, but we need to congratulate her and the Agrf Secretariat for this great event. I've been in this field for a long time, and I'm not going to repeat what others have said, and they have said great things, starting with the First Lady, how we can capitalize on Africa's resources, Africa's foods, and where I stand with regard to African foods is that African foods are our foods, they are nutritious, and they are climate resilient. They have always been. So, one statement I say is that as Africans, we eat badly because we eat other people's food. And the corona has shown us that we survived that corona because many of us went back to our foods. And we need to get back to those foods. And we are the only continent which eats other people's food. But we don't get enough research, funding to work on those foods. And the First Lady pointed that out. And I believe that that's something that our partners can begin to think about. The other thing I would like to say is that our own foods also are climate resilient. When I looked up what Africans we used to eat grass, vegetables, insects, which give us protein, roots, and we need to go back to those foods. Firstly, it will let us reclaim ourselves because any culture without a particular type of food really is not worth talking about. And we can in fact share this. And all these medicines that we keep swallowing, they come from those foods that we have here naturally. Secondly, for this year, I remember last year in Rwanda, I said if they didn't prioritize nutrition, I will not attend this meeting. I'm happy that we are prioritizing nutrition. I've spent all my life working on food issues. Food is not just fulfilling our satiety needs, but it has to be culturally acceptable, it has to be tasty, it has to be safe, it has to be nutritious. And I know, I've been to many of these villages, I've been to many of these countries, I talk to many people, I just talk food. And I know many, many times, we only show what we eat, but what we eat is different when you go to the villages. These days we don't do food consumption surveys. We don't. Yesterday I stopped by to take a cassava. And they asked me, what type do you want? How is it cooked? What should it come with? A cassava. This morning we passed by. You know, big pots are just cooking cassava. I don't know whether we're eating cassava here while we're here this week with the different vegetables. Yeah. And I normally say, look, if you cannot feed yourself, you cannot be free. So I see an Africa now. And I see many young people here now. You may wonder why I'm still coming here. I'll be 77 on Saturday. You know? Why am I still coming here? I'm coming here because I know we can feed ourselves. We can restore our integrity as a people. Too many projects in Africa. Too many cooks. But the soup doesn't come out well. So I want to appeal to the donors. Donors, you are here. Partners, you are here. And I remember in an earlier Agrf, the very first one, I said this 3-year thing, 3-year, 5-year, a project ends. When you go back, there's nothing to show. If you really want to work as partners, identify grassroots organizations. Identify Africans working on African issues. Because without the people working, you can't have anyone to donate your money to. Let's be partners. Let's support the First Lady, what she's doing. Support Ruth, what Ruth is doing. Support all these young people that are here. They are doing great things. And we also want our dignity and to be able to be counted with the rest of the world. And my age gives me an opportunity to say what I'm saying. And I've seen a lot of it. So, Madam Chair, Madam Coordinator, if you cannot feed yourself, you will not be free. And I see an Africa, not of the bushes, we are now educated. We go to those top schools. We are good. And those of you who don't have the melanin here, you are on this continent for the first time. You step in Africa and Africa never leaves you. So you are here because you want to be here. You want to work with us. So let's work together. Donors, supporters, CGRA, Lawrence, Haddad. You have been my good friend for a long time.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
So yeah, that's my appeal. And look, let me say the last thing, okay? I just finished chairing the Sasakawa Africa Association for the last 13 years. I went there because of nutrition and children, but it's only now with the current strategy that we have nutrition in it. We have nutrition in it. I've just handed that over, passing on the baton. And then here, nutrition has been prioritized, isn't it? Because we can't just eat anything, everything. And when I go to the women, I work with them, food is not just food. I talk about how they look. I talk to their husbands. Those husbands, they need their women to look good. Food, good nutrition makes you look good. Okay?
Thank you very much,
Thank
Dr.
you. I'll leave it there. Sorry, I talk too much. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
There.
And you have definitely kicked off this session with a lot of excitement, and you've also touched on a lot of critical and important points. The issues of climate change can also be addressed by local best practices, as well as the use of our local food to strengthen our food systems and to address issues of nutrition. But of course, there are other challenges. The integration of knowledge, skills, support of women and their integration. So I would like to invite our next discussant on this fireside chat, Honorable Josephine Joseph Langa, Minister, Agriculture and Food Security in South Sudan, to lend her voice to this discourse and particularly talk about integration of women and households in addressing these challenges.
Thank you so much. I would just like to make a small correction. I'm Lily Akol. I'm the Deputy Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, and I'm here on behalf of my minister, who is also sending her regards, but due to conflicting schedules, she couldn't come. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and I think you are making my job very difficult after this great presentation. I think challenges and opportunities work together, hand in hand. Because where there are challenges, there are also opportunities. We can create opportunities out of that. And if you look at the challenges of food security systems and having nutritious diets, especially in the context of Africa, I do agree with the professor because food is cultural, diet is cultural, meaning that I will always eat what I found my grandmother was eating, what I found my mother was eating. It is what that environment provided for us. And so the opportunity in that is that, especially at the policy level, is how do we diversify the food intake in a certain community, meaning that you are talking about feeder roads, for example, about markets, about value chain. That's why I say the whole thing needs a holistic approach. For example, if I take myself as an example, I come from cattle keepers, so we will eat more meat and more dairy. My uncles, the Luos, you see their intake is more either fish or greens. So how can we do that? I think it is very important at the policy level. And for us in South Sudan, we created, or we are about to reintroduce what we call Food Security Council, South Sudan Food Security Council. Because the Food Security Council will enable us to have that holistic approach, because it brings in all the important components, all the important institutions that are very vital, because I think this is part of what food systems is about. It's not only food production, it's all the other factors from the time the food is produced until when the food is on the table or when the food is taken to the market. And so in introducing the Food Security Council, we hope we will bring all the concerned institutions, the development partners, the researchers to come together so that we are on the same page. Also, I think research and education is very important, because it is a fact that we are talking a lot about climate change. Now I'm coming from Juba, and for the first time we noticed that there's no rain this year. And when we talk about farming in Africa, it's mostly subsistence farming, and we do follow the natural calendar of the rain. So what does it mean now? It means that farmers are confused. So we need a lot of research to help them. When do I farm? Do I follow the traditional historic calendar of the rain, or are scientists telling me the rains are coming 1 month early or 2 months late? And I think this is very important to address the issues of climate change that are affecting our farmers, especially in the rural areas. So I think technology and smart agriculture, this era of climate change, I think is very, very important. And lastly, I would say also integrated farming, where, and again, when we talk about food pyramid, this is what comes into your mind, because you are talking crops, you are talking vegetables, you are talking dairy, you are talking seafood. To have that full, complete pyramid, we also need to introduce integrated farming into among our farmers. I think, as she said, there's a lot always to say, but I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that contribution. A round of applause for the speaker. And you've highlighted the importance of technology, smart agriculture, taking into consideration the impact of climate change to support farmers to improve productivity, and then integrated solutions that involve partnerships. And it will take everyone to lift this, not just the working that is taking place in isolation. And so with that, I would invite the next panelist to give his remarks. Dr. Lawrence Haddad, Executive Director of Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition. And we are talking about partnerships. what can our partners do? And how can they take into consideration what the continent already has, its potential, and the work that exists, and the wealth of knowledge that exists, and leverage that to support the continent to achieve its goals on nutrition?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Thank you.